Welcome to another edition of From the Front Lines, where we discuss both the day-to-day and one-of-a-kind issues facing real estate managers.
Our topic today is CSP Insights. The IREM Certified Sustainable Property, otherwise known as CSP, is an affordable and attainable way to demonstrate a property's dedication to sustainability and planetary health, while improving NOI and appealing to owners, tenants, and residents. I'm Rebecca O'Brien, Senior Director of the IREM Foundation. The IREM Foundation is a 501c3 public charity. We serve as IREM's philanthropic arm. The foundation believes that well-managed real estate leads to thriving communities, so we value providing resources that help real estate managers make a difference in the buildings and communities where we live, shop, work, and play. Now, one of the resources we provide is grant funding for sustainability or wellness-related initiatives through a program called Elena's Sustainability Fund. And our guest today was among one of the first recipients of an Elena's Fund grant. I'm here with Dr. Erin Hopkins, Associate Professor of Property Management at Virginia Tech. Welcome, Erin.
Thanks for having me.
So, Erin, as I mentioned, you were among the first IREM Foundation grant recipients through Elena's Sustainability Fund. And the outcome of that grant was a research study on the IREM CSP certification. Can you tell me how the CSP compares to other green building certifications on the market?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Well, the first IREM CSP building was certified in 2015. So it's the newest third-party building certification on the market compared to other popular certifications like LEED and Green Globes that have been around for over 20 years or so. What makes the IREM CSP program unique is that it offers a roadmap for property owners and management companies alike seeking a way to implement green real estate management practices into their property assets. I think it's also important to note that the IREM CSP program focuses strictly on existing buildings versus LEED and Green Globes, which also offer certification for building design and construction. And in regards to cost, the IREM CSP certification is a lot less expensive than LEED, O&M, and Green Globes for existing buildings for both smaller and larger buildings. So I think those are some important things to note about the IREM CSP program.
That's great. It sounds like it's really accessible.
Yes.
Wonderful. Could you explain a little bit more about your research on the CSP and the interviews you conducted?
Sure, that'd be my pleasure. So it was an honor to receive a grant from Elena's Sustainability Fund. And I thought, what better than to look at IREM CSP program, being that it's the newest third-party building certification, and that adoption keeps increasing in the marketplace. So while adoption keeps growing, there hasn't been any research done on the certification. So undertaking a research study to gain insights into this program, I think, is really important. So beginning, some of the research questions that presented themselves were, first of all, who advocates for the IREM CSP certification process and why? And also, what are the cost impacts, best practices, and recommendations moving forward for the IREM CSP? And the way these research questions were answered was through a series of semi-structured interviews. And it was a diverse and holistic interview sample. There were 23 individuals that participated, and it ran the gamut. We had 4 C-suite executives interviewed, 1 principal, 6 vice presidents, 5 directors, 3 project managers, 1 regional property manager, and then 3 on-site property managers across owner firms, third-party property management firms, owner-manager firms, and consultant firms. So we really have a holistic sample here. So that's really the motivation for the research and how the research was conducted.
Wow, that's great. It sounds very holistic, as you said.
Yes.
Now, can you tell me a little bit about what your research found in terms of the role of property management in green building certifications like the CSP or other sustainable operations in general?
Yeah, sure. So ecological sustainability really is becoming an increasingly common forward-thinking strategy among property companies. And when it comes to advocating for the IREM CSP program, typically the property owner influences the property management company to obtain the IREM CSP. But through my interviewing, there had been instances where the property management firm has pushed for the green building certification. And then in other cases, it seems to be a combined decision and effort between both the property management company and property owner company. And I think this works well in cases where firm values are in alignment regarding sustainability. And also a common theme was, while it's common practice to use a third-party consultant to guide these property companies through the certification process, it's clear that they must work with the property management staff on site to gather the property data for the application. So an active and effective property manager is a key influencer in the process.
That's great. Definitely an important partnership. What do you find is drawing companies to the CSP program? What is really motivating them to seek these certifications for their properties?
Yeah, great question. So from the interviews, there were many reasons that companies are drawn to the CSP program. The most frequently mentioned reason was pressure from investors. So as ESG, and ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance. So as ESG initiatives become more important to investors, the IREM CSP is an important priority for some property companies as they seek to receive that institutional investment from their clients. Also, too, local market pressures are playing into the adoption of the IREM CSP certification. So, for example, at the property level, if the competition has a green building certification and you don't, it makes you want to get one. And also, too, many larger companies are finding that GRESB points are a motivating factor in obtaining the IREM CSP certification. So, GRESB is the Global Real Estate Sustainability Benchmark, which is an assessment framework used as an ESG benchmark for real estate assets. And as a company's GRESB score reflects the level of these ESG efforts that I was talking about earlier, the investors are using these scores to make decisions on investments. So the IREM CSP certification receives points as a green building certification in this framework. And then that's all factored into a part of the company's overall GRESB score. So that was a very important motivating factor as well for larger companies. Multiple interviewees also mentioned that LEED certification really just isn't feasible for some of their building assets. And instead, IREM CSP is a better option for its cost, the number of requirements, the time to completion. And there was a theme that it was a better fit for older suburban multifamily building assets. A couple other motivating factors, asset distinction was another theme that came up. So companies are using it as a communication tool that showcases a property as being environmentally sustainable. And sometimes the IREM CSP is also used as an amenity that can be used to distinguish the property as contributing to an environmental wellness lifestyle. And then there's also a sentiment among interview respondents that they gravitate towards the IREM CSP as it's a more human-centered certification that rewards exceptional management of the property. So multiple respondents said this certification focuses on the personnel and management policies versus the building components that are more common in some of the other building certifications. And then the last theme that I want to mention is, a lot of people said, hey, you know what? The IREM CSP certification is the right thing to do. So multiple respondents mentioned that the IREM CSP is designed to help and push property companies to do the right things and, to be environmentally friendly. So while these stakeholders believe that focusing on the environmental aspects can directly and indirectly benefit their economic bottom line, the responses really suggested that environmental factors really are important in their own right. So I think that's important to note as well.
Wow, those are great insights. Thank you for sharing. Now, your research also unearthed some best practices for those interested in certifying properties through the CSP program. And I want to dig in and go a little bit deeper into each of those best practices.
Sure.
So first, benchmarking and data management can be difficult to establish, but are critical to success in both CSP program and efficient property operations. Can you explain why having good benchmarking and data management program is so important?
Sure. So, as the old adage goes, you can't manage what you don't measure. So benchmarking really allows you to measure things like energy, water, and waste at the property, and then comparing these benchmarks to whether it be the company's building portfolio as well as your peer buildings in the marketplace. And you can also use this benchmarking to set future sustainability goals in these areas, such as energy, water, and waste. And then as far as data management, benchmarking goes hand in hand with that, but ensuring that the property has the appropriate data and minding that data makes the certification process easier. So one method to assist organized data collection is to establish a centralized system to track these items, such as greenhouse gas emissions, waste, water, energy purchasing, and the like. So active utility management and additional sensors and software can help set up these types of centralized systems. And another thing that interviewees were talking about is retaining historical data from the initial certification can make the renewal certification process significantly less cumbersome. So I think that's important to note. And then when we talk about all these different points, the data regarding the financial return information should also be analyzed, and points chosen, on the checklist based on the best return, not only for the owner, but also for the resident as well.
That's great. Now, some of the people you talk to work with companies that have enrolled in the CSP volume program. Can you explain what advantages that gives them?
Yeah, so based on what the portfolio of buildings as a whole are doing, a property can qualify for a certain amount of points before working down at the property level for additional points. So for example, a property company may have a policy already in place that benchmarks energy and water use at all its properties. So since this is a company-wide policy, all buildings automatically get those points across the board on the IREM CSP checklist. And of course, too, that takes some of the burden off of the on-site property management staff, which is a plus. Another example would be conducting a full analysis for the potential of solar installation across all buildings from the investment manager level. So again, this IREM can give points for this before the process is even started at the property level. So I think it's important to look over that volume program to see if this strategy works before actually working through the IREM CSP at the property level.
Sure. I mean, some people might say that applying for a green certification seems a little daunting, but I know that your research has brought up some ideas to make the process of applying for the CSP more manageable. So for example, tell us, should individual property managers tackle each application independently, or should a project manager handle everything at the corporate level?
Sure, great question. I think that's going to vary depending on the property company. But one theme that resonated from the interviews was and also too from the existing academic literature, I should mention, that having an internal person or a team of people at that corporate level that are held accountable for the program can be helpful for a smoother implementation. So this decision maker for the IREM CSP program could be the advocate. They could be the knowledge base because they know how the program works. And then the employees, whether they be at the corporate level or the site level, can come to this person or team with any questions they have about going through the process currently, or maybe, they're thinking about doing this in the future, but possible implementation strategies in the future. And I think too, something that is really important is remembering the on-site property staff. So the on-site property staff needs to feel supported by providing time and resources so that the IREM CSP program implementation can be successful. So whether that's providing financial resources for hiring a knowledgeable consultant or setting aside time for the property management personnel to complete the application steps for the IREM CSP. Because as I talked to multiple interviewees, some people had the actual on-site property managers working through, and others had hired a third-party property consultant. But either way it goes, it's providing that time and resources for the IREM CSP designation to get done.
Absolutely. Do you have any guidance on choosing properties specific for a CSP application?
Yeah, so I think property companies need to be strategic in picking the right properties for the IREM CSP certification. And this can be done by working through the IREM CSP checklist and then seeing what the property may already be doing related to the checklist. A lot of people who I interviewed said that, as they were going through the checklist, they were pleasantly surprised that they were already doing a lot of things on the checklist. So, when we think about that too, while newer building assets tend to make the IREM CSP easier to obtain, newer assets also really make it hard to effectuate change though too for energy and water because of that newer technology. And also too, we have to remember the locality really does matter when choosing properties for the certification because it's easier to achieve in localities with recycling services available and benchmarking requirements in place.
Thank you for sharing that, Erin. And if you're interested in seeing where the checklist lives, you can just visit irem.org/CSP and find resources there. So Erin, carrying on, tell me a little bit about what role communication plays in successful completion of the CSP.
Sure, both from the interviewees and the academic existing literature on this, continual communication during and after certification is critical. So this includes communication among property owners, the property management companies, and also the building occupants. So more collaborative approaches across firms are essential so various stakeholders really understand the certification and can relay this knowledge to others that are considering or currently working through the process. And it's also important to house this information somewhere with not just one person, because that person may leave and go to another firm or another company might take over the building. So there has to be some type of communication that kind of has a continuation for the IREM CSP.
Well, thank you, Erin, so much for being here with us today. And, you may have heard that the Elena Sustainability Fund applications are open again this year. Would you maybe close us out with any recommendations you might have for somebody considering applying for an Elena Sustainability Fund grant?
Sure. I first want to thank you for the opportunity to conduct this research by providing a grant through Elena Sustainability Fund. It's been a pleasure to work with IREM on this, and I definitely recommend people apply for this grant. Not only does the grant cover research such as what I had conducted for the IREM CSP program, but there are also other opportunities to get involved, whether there's a project that you might have in mind that needs some funding that has to do with sustainability. That can be an option, or if there's something really that you do want to research that hasn't been done yet, or within a particular property sector, that's definitely an opportunity as well. Like I said, it's really nice that these funds are available to further sustainability in the property management field. So thank you for the opportunity. And like I said, it's really been a pleasure. So I highly recommend applying for one of these grants.
Thank you so much, Erin. It's been a pleasure to work with you as well. And I have no doubt that your research is going to help properties along your sustainability and certification journey. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. I appreciate it.
Visit irem.org for more knowledge to take on real estate management's most dynamic challenges. That's www.irem.org.